An interstate stampede Friday morning after a big rig full of cows flipped over on I-20.
Now traffic is being rerouted. Look, there's a cow right there. Cows running free. That's what we're dealing with this morning.
They were on their way from Florida to a feed yard in Texas.
He was supposed to go one way instead of the other and tried to make the turn.
Some 70 cows made a break for freedom when the truck crashed.
We're going to have to bring horses in, and we can't rope any cattle until the sun comes up, till there's daylight. Roping them in the dark, you take a chance of running them out in the street.
But once it got light, the roundup got underway.
The guys that out here, they handle cattle for a living, so they were contacted and they came right on.
The driver went to the hospital with an arm injury and is expected to be okay. More than 100 gallons of diesel fuel also spilled. Overall, the cleanup and roundup took over 4 hours. Most of the cows captured went to a local stockyard in good condition.
One that got hit by a car is the worst one, and then there's a couple banged up, so 3 or 4 at the worst.
The stockyard will hold the cows until they ship them to the insurance company, who will take over from there.
Is this something that that people do all over the country? If there's a wreck with the cattle involved, it goes to the nearest stockyard?
Yes.
Between the cleanup and the cattle lost to the insurance company, the cattleman is losing hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Cattle probably cost $800-900 a piece.
And he doesn't get them back after this wreck?
No.
In Jackson, Allie Ware, 16 WAPT News.
There's one, there's one. All we had to do was step outside the station doors and we found dozens of fire ant beds. But the question is, why all of a sudden are there so many?
We turned to an MSU Extension agent who says the ants went deep underground during the drought and the recent rains are forcing them back to the surface.
They're trying to get away from the water, and the temperatures are cooling off a little bit, so they have to bring their brood up to the top.
The fire ants are a nuisance to some, but can be deadly to pets, children, and the elderly.
You know, you're usually not stung by just one fire ant. It's usually multiple stings.
What's the best remedy to get rid of the ants?
Find somebody at one of the stores with poison.
Lewis agrees.
You know, there's some myths about controlling fire ants. You know, gasoline, that's not a good choice to use. It's environmentally unsafe. I've heard of people using grits. That's not going to work. So you really have to stick with the pesticides that are labeled for fire ants.
Lewis says once the ground starts to frost, the fire ants will go back into the ground, but they'll be back for spring.
It's a never-ending cycle.
Allie Ware, 16 WAPT News. 4 teens charged as adults used bed sheets to break out of the downtown Jackson jail. According to the Sheriff's Department, guards check cells every 3 hours. They claim the inmates were in their cells at 4 a.m. Thursday morning, but by 7 a.m., we spotted this sheet hanging off the side of the jail.
You can see a broken window at the very top of the jail, and then it looks like they tied bed sheets together and then used that as the way out.
The sheriff's spokesperson says the window is just one of many that is already broken.
This window is one of several issues at the Jackson Detention Center that we're working diligently with the Board of Supervisors to get repaired.
So clearly now that's even more of a rush issue to get those fixed so something like this doesn't happen again.
I would absolutely think that would be the case.
They didn't just find bed sheets on the roof they jumped from. They also found cookies, saran wrap, and duct tape, which are supposed to be banned from the jail.
The Board of Supervisors, we're not responsible for watching the prisoners. We're responsible for maintaining the jail, making sure that they have the equipment that they need, making sure that things are being repaired in an orderly manner.
We work extremely hard to eliminate it. Of course, nothing is foolproof, and so things sometimes tend to still slip in.
Does this surprise you?
Yeah. Yeah. I thought we had a little more security here in the jail, right here in the middle of town.
The Sheriff's Department says now their priority is to get those windows fixed.
It speaks to the notion that we've got to get the repairs done on this facility.
We're trying to find out exactly what happened, what needs to change. We want to make sure that the Sheriff's Department has everything that they need in order to maintain the smooth operation of the jail to keep these individuals locked up.
In downtown Jackson, Allie Ware, 16 WAPT News. In a 16 WAPT investigation, we found out dozens of cosmetologists are working illegally in Mississippi. Hundreds of hairstylists have been operating without a license because of a backlog with the state board.
The average graduate was having to wait on the average of 2 months or more just to be able to go take an exam. Then once they accomplished that level, then they were waiting 3, 4, some up to 6 months just to receive their license.
And so they couldn't work without it.
Can't work without it.
I mean, it's definitely gonna put a pause, but you can only hope for the best that it doesn't take that long. But I'm hoping that it doesn't take that long.
But a lot of people just can't wait. Most hair experts blame the backlog on the Mississippi Cosmetology Agency.
Do you think it's fair to say that people hated this agency at one point?
I would say, yeah, probably.
Waylon Garrett just took over as president of the state's cosmetology board this year. At the same time, the board was facing a crisis.
The legislature was actually going to disbar the board, get rid of us. And that's how bad it was.
But if the state dissolved the board, it would mean virtually no regulation, no licenses, no schools, and no inspectors to hold stylists accountable.
It's a fungus, an infection, losing your hair.
What goes on behind these doors not only affecting thousands of cosmetologists throughout the state, but anyone who walks in for a haircut.
Would you? Would you go to a nurse that wasn't licensed? Well, I mean, the same type of things that nurses and doctors have to go through for sanitation and everything, those same procedures have to be done in the beauty industry.
This year, Waylon Garrett has already fired several old employees.
When the new board came in, it wasn't just about clearing up the paperwork, but they also had to physically clean up after former employees trashed the place.
The office was a disaster. There was stuff thrown everywhere. There was files deleted. Everything had to be recreated.
No matter what, it will take the new board some time to catch up.
She has to generate 80 licenses per hour just to keep up with the amount of license to keep everybody happy. And that's not even to mention to the people who forget to send their pictures in.
This board does not want anyone to be able to say, I can't work, or lose their home or their vehicles.
For now, inspectors will not issue fines to anyone operating without a license as long as they can prove they've sent in the paperwork.
I want this agency to be the best that it can be.
Even if that means so much negativity being thrown in your face?
Yes.
Does it affect you in wanting to pursue this career?
No. Yeah, I can't. Never gonna stop.
Allie Ware, 16 WAPT News.
Just a peace in your heart, just do something for the good Lord.
Lewis Miller works for a group called Crosses Across America. He's getting ready to put up a 110-foot cross in Florence. More than a year after the city of Brandon denied the same structure.
That's what it's going to look like when it's finished.
That's what it'll look like right there.
MDOT says over 28 million people a year pass by this site.
When the cross is put up, you won't be able to miss it because when it's on this platform behind me, it will stand over 11 stories tall.
And that's exactly the problem that Brandon leaders had with putting the cross up in their town back in 2013.
It's about the skyline of what the residents of Brandon want their city to look like going forward.
This week, we reached out to the mayor of Florence to see if there'd been any complaints. We didn't get a response before news time, but the contractor says he's seen nothing but positive reactions.
My memory is a little redheaded girl came by and she just got out and cried.
The cross is even getting national attention with Bill Geist and Jay Kernis coming to Mississippi to film a feature segment for a special Easter program. In Florence, Allie Ware, 16 WAPT News.